Rich millionaires were mocking a poor waitress and asking her to play piano. She was afraid, with tears in her eyes, begging them to stop. But what happened next changed everything forever. Before you watch complete story, comment down your country name, I would love to hear. Sarah had always believed that hard work would pay off someday. Every morning, she woke up at 5 a.m., put on her simple black uniform, and walked to Milano's restaurant with hope in her heart. She was just a waitress, but she was saving every dollar for her little brother Tommy's college education. The fancy restaurant was nothing like the small town where Sarah grew up. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, marble floors sparkled under soft lights, and rich people ate meals that cost more than Sarah made in a week. In the corner sat a beautiful black piano that nobody ever played. Sarah had been working at Milano's for 2 years. She was always polite, always smiling, and never complained even when customers were rude. The other waitresses liked her because she was kind and helpful. The kitchen staff respected her because she never caused trouble. But to the wealthy customers, Sarah was invisible. What nobody knew was Sarah's secret. Before her family lost everything, before her father died and left them with nothing, Sarah had been different. She had been someone else entirely. But those days were buried deep in her past, locked away like a treasure chest she never planned to open again. On this cold Tuesday evening, everything was about to change. 3 men walked into the restaurant like they owned the world. Marcus Wellington, a real estate king who bought buildings like candy. Richard Blackstone, who owned fancy hotels and treated people like garbage. And James Morrison, a tech billionaire who loved making others feel small. They sat at table 7, right next to the silent piano, and immediately started causing trouble. "This place is so boring," Marcus complained loudly, making sure everyone could hear. "What's the point of having a piano if nobody plays it?" "Maybe we should ask the help to entertain us," Richard laughed, pointing at Sarah as she served another table. Sarah felt their eyes on her but kept working. She had learned to ignore rude customers. It was part of the job. But tonight, these men wouldn't let her ignore them. "Hey, waitress," James called out, snapping his fingers like she was a dog. "Come here." Sarah took a deep breath and walked over with her best customer service smile. "How can I help you, gentlemen?" "We want some entertainment," Marcus said with a nasty grin. "Play us something on that piano." "I'm sorry, sir, but I'm just a waitress. I don't play piano," Sarah replied politely. The 3 men looked at each other and burst into cruel laughter. "Of course you don't," Richard sneered. "What was I thinking? A simple waitress playing classical music? That's hilarious." "Come on," James pushed further. "Just bang on the keys. Give us a good laugh. We've spent enough money here to deserve some fun." Other customers started watching. Sarah felt her face getting hot with embarrassment. Her hands began to shake. "I really can't, sir. I need to get back to work," she said quietly. "Oh, but I think you can." Marcus stood up, his voice getting mean. "We're not asking. We're telling. Go sit at that piano and play something. Anything. Even if you mess up, it'll be funny." "Yeah," Richard joined in, also standing. "What's wrong? Too good for us? Too proud to try?" James pulled out his phone. "This is going to be great. I'll record the whole thing. Waitress tries to play piano and fails. It'll go viral." The entire restaurant was watching now. Some people looked uncomfortable, but nobody said anything. Rich customers were never wrong at Milano's. Sarah looked at the piano. Her heart was beating so fast she thought it might explode. 15 years had passed since she last touched piano keys. 15 years since her old life ended. 15 years since she had been someone completely different. The men kept pushing, kept laughing, kept making cruel jokes about the poor little waitress, who thought she was too good to entertain them. That's when something inside Sarah snapped. She had spent 2 years being invisible. 2 years being treated like she didn't matter. 2 years listening to rich people act like they were better than everyone else just because they had money. "You know what?" Sarah said suddenly, her voice steady and calm. "You're right." The 3 men stopped laughing, surprised by her response. "I should play something for you," Sarah continued, walking toward the piano. "After all, you've been such wonderful customers." Marcus, Richard, and James exchanged excited looks. Finally, they were going to get their show. They were going to humiliate this simple waitress in front of everyone. "This is perfect," James whispered, holding up his phone to record. "She's actually going to do it." Sarah sat down at the piano bench. The familiar feel of the polished wood under her fingers brought back a flood of memories. She had tried so hard to forget, but muscle memory never really dies. "What should I play?" she asked innocently, looking back at the 3 men. "Anything." Marcus laughed. "We're not picky. Just don't hurt yourself trying. How about some Mozart? Sarah suggested. Or maybe Chopin? Richard nearly choked on his wine. Mozart? Chopin? Just play Happy Birthday, or something simple, honey? Actually, Sarah said with a small smile, I think I know exactly what to play. She placed her hands on the keys and paused for just a moment. In that silence, the entire restaurant held its breath. Then Sarah began to play. The first notes of Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2 filled the air like magic. Not the simple melody these men expected, but one of the most difficult and beautiful pieces ever written. Sarah's fingers moved across the keys like lightning, each note perfect, each phrase flowing into the next with breathtaking skill. The music soared through the restaurant, rich and powerful and absolutely flawless. The three men's jaws dropped. Their cruel smiles disappeared. James's phone slipped from his shaking hands. Every person in the restaurant stopped eating, stopped talking, stopped breathing. They had never heard anything so beautiful in their lives. But Sarah wasn't finished. As the first piece ended, she immediately moved into Liszt's Hungarian Rhapsody No. 2, her fingers flying over the keys with impossible speed and precision. The music was wild, passionate, technically perfect. Marcus, Richard, and James stood frozen, their faces pale with shock and growing horror. Then came Chopin's revolutionary etude, each note striking like thunder. Sarah played with such emotion, such power, that several people in the restaurant began to cry. When the last note faded into silence, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The only sound was Sarah's calm breathing as she stood up from the piano bench. She turned to face the three men who had humiliated her just minutes before. Their faces were white with shock and embarrassment. "Thank you for the suggestion, gentlemen," Sarah said sweetly. "I hope you enjoyed the performance." The restaurant erupted in applause. Every person stood up, clapping and cheering. Some people were shouting, "Bravo!" Others were wiping tears from their eyes. But Marcus, Richard, and James just stood there looking like fools. Who are you?" Marcus stammered. Sarah smiled. "I'm Sarah Chin. Or maybe you remember my stage name, Sarah Chin, the youngest pianist ever to win the International Chopin competition. I was supposed to have a concert career, recordings, world tours. But sometimes life changes your plans." The color completely drained from their faces. 15 years ago my father got sick," Sarah continued calmly. "We lost everything paying for his treatment. After he died, I had to take care of my mother and little brother. So I put away my music and became a waitress. Because sometimes taking care of your family is more important than fame." Richard tried to speak but no words came out. "But thank you," Sarah said, her voice getting stronger. "Thank you for reminding me who I really am. I had almost forgotten." She picked up her serving tray and started to walk away, then stopped and turned back. "Oh, and gentlemen, your meals tonight are free. Consider it payment for the concert." I think everyone got their money's worth. The entire restaurant burst into laughter and more applause. The three men grabbed their coats and rushed toward the door, too embarrassed to stay another second. As they left, they could hear people talking excitedly about the most amazing piano performance they had ever witnessed. The restaurant owner, Mr. Milano, approached Sarah with tears in his eyes. "Sarah," he said, "I had no idea. Why didn't you ever tell me you could play?" Sarah shrugged. "You never asked. And besides, I needed a job as a waitress, not a pianist." "Well," Mr. Milano said with a big smile, "how about both? Would you consider playing here on weekends? I'll pay you extra, of course." Sarah looked at the piano, then at all the smiling faces around her. For the first time in 15 years she felt like herself again. "I think I'd like that," she said. Later that night, as Sarah walked home, she called her brother Tommy. "Guess what happened today?" she said when he answered. "What?" "I played piano again. And I remembered why I loved it so much." Tommy was quiet for a moment. "Are you happy, Sarah?" Sarah looked up at the stars and smiled. "Yeah, Tommy. For the first time in a long time, I really am." The next day, videos of Sarah's performance were all over the internet. Not the embarrassing videos Marcus, Richard, and James had planned to share, but beautiful recordings that other customers had made of her amazing playing. Within a week, Sarah had received calls from concert halls, recording companies, and music schools. The girl who had once been invisible was suddenly visible to the whole world. But the best part wasn't the fame or the opportunities. The best part was that three cruel men had tried to break her spirit, and instead, they had helped her find it again. Sometimes revenge really is a dish best served with perfect pitch and flawless technique. And sometimes the best way to win is simply to be magnificently, undeniably yourself.